looking at headline earnings per share for the full year from continuing operations up 2.8%. If we focus on the headline earnings per share line and looking at the fact that a 40% contribution of that is made from FirstRand and RMB Asset Management, 60% comes from the industrial portfolio, and it looks as though the star performers there were Mediclinic and Rainbow Chickens. So can you elaborate on your industrial portfolio?
Yeah, I think it's been a story of mixed fortunes. We've had a substantial turnaround in the fortune of Total, where previously they incurred, with a declining oil price, substantial stock losses. We've seen that trend reversed, although it's, in terms of its absolute earnings level, it's still much lower than we would expect over the long term. The other industrial share that did quite well under the period was Unilever, which is a good defensive company, earnings contribution up by 20%. I think you also refer to the financial services contribution, which was down 14%, just to point out that we only account for FirstRand in respect of their 12 months to December. So they've put out a trading update for their full year to June, where I think they're projecting a substantial turnaround. So we'll hopefully benefit from that turnaround as they've announced publicly.
And just looking at the Venfin transaction that was concluded in November 2009, it has not had a material impact on this set of results. Do you expect the impact to be material in the next financial set of results?
No, I don't. From an earnings point of view, not. In the current period, we accounted for very few of those investments because of their reporting periods. We'll see the full year impact in the following year, but if we look at the nature of a number of their investments, they're still, I would call them, in the growing phase, where I think earnings streams do not really match the true long-term potential. So we would expect some dilution in the new year because of the shares that we issued, but overall, in terms of shareholder value, we believe we've acquired a good parcel of assets.
Hi, Thys. This is Lo. I just want to ask you.
Hi, Lo.
Hi, from a strategic standpoint, if we could just start there. Number one, what's the key metric by which you measure yourself to know if you're doing well or not doing well? And do you get involved in as an active shareholder in the companies in which you're invested? For instance, I can hold Rainbow, you can hold Rainbow. I can hold Mediclinic, you can hold What do you do different from me in Mediclinic or Rainbow to create shareholder value strategically?
Well, firstly, we judge all our investments by means of IRRs, and our target IRRs are to exceed our cost of capital by at least 5%. So we're talking about target IRRs that are approximately closer towards 20% plus. So that's our internal benchmark that we use. We take substantial positions on companies. We sit on the boards, which is very different to what I would call a normal investor's position. And hence, most cases, we have influence, irrespective of whether we have outright control or not. You used a good example, which was the case of Rainbow. I mean, we were originally not in a position to intervene in the Rainbow because it was controlled by a family. But once that control situation changed, we were able to intervene, and it was successful. I would concur that there are instances where we've been too slow, made mistakes, but on balance, we believe that if a company is being well managed, you leave it alone and don't interfere. And you only interfere if you believe it's being mismanaged, and if there are successful businesses, you add value by supporting them with a checkbook.
Thys, Mohammed Nalla from Nedbank Capital. Just one of the highlights in terms of the announcement you put out today was the potential unbundling of TransHex, which I find quite interesting. Maybe you could shed some light in terms of where your thinking is on that unbundling, as well as what your expectation would be in terms of the financial impact of such an unbundling on Remgro.
Well, I mean, in the unbundling announcement, we try to make it quite clear in point 2 of that announcement regarding the rationale. And if I can just take you back shortly or briefly to the history of TransHex and the history of its investment in Angola. It took some very big bets in Angola 6-7 years ago, in fact 10 years ago, and over time, under difficult circumstances, and in the course, I think lost a lot of shareholder value, which was reflected in their previous financial year, where they made impairments of close to 700 or 800 million rand. Right now, the company has sort of stabilized its position in Angola into one asset. They seem to have concluded an acceptable arrangement or agreement with their partners, and the company is quite positive of the way forward. We've just felt that it's such an immaterial investment in the case of Remgro. We would rather leave it in the hands of the indirect shareholders to decide whether they want to increase or decrease their exposure to TransX, and hence the reason for the unbundling.
Thys, I'm sure this is a question you get asked often. You are giving money back to shareholders with your dividend increasing by 10%, but you do have 4.6 billion rand on balance sheet. What do you plan to do with that money?
Well, firstly, we do fund our dividends out of that cash pool. So, firstly, we have a final dividend which we declare today, which is about 640 million, which we have to fund. There was also an announcement later this evening or later this afternoon after close of business by Mediclinic announcing a rights issue. You might not have seen that. And we're following our rights there, which will take up another 600 million. I think in the context of our total market capitalization or asset value, a cash holding of less than 10% is not that huge. Our primary task is to invest that cash, and if we can't invest it, we've demonstrated in the past that we're willing to pass on more to our shareholders.
Hey, Thys, it's me again. I just want to ask, if I recall, do you still hold Nampak?
That's correct.
Could you kindly take us through the decision-making that you went through when you looked at Nampak not performing for a very long time? Subsequently, it looks like in the past numbers they put out, they've done a lot of restructuring, but why did it take you so long to extract value from shareholders, and why didn't you get as involved in Nampak as you finally got involved with Rainbow?
Well, firstly, our stake in Nampak and our influence in Nampak is very different to what it is in Rainbow. In Rainbow, we've always had a controlling stake, and we could only have intervened at that point in time. In the case of Nampak, our stake is 13%. We have one director on the board, and that's the way we take it there. I mean, I don't want to talk out of the house regarding Nampak, but certainly it would be irresponsible for me to actually say what our internal view regarding Nampak is. But I mean, if you can recall a year or two ago, or in fact 18 months ago, they were approached by Bidvest to buy them out. But again, if the price was right, we would have accepted it, but the price wasn't right.
Looking at your intrinsic value at the 31st of March 2010 at 121 Rand 64, share price at 98 Rand, you have managed to reduce the trading discount on a year-on-year basis to just 20%, and that's from 32% prior to this. Do you think you can reduce that trading discount further? 20% is still a big discount to your intrinsic value, Thys.
Well, firstly, I don't think we would like to take the credit for the reduced discount. I think that depends on what the market view on the share is. Certainly, we don't like discounts, but we've lived with it for a long time, and if we continue to have sleepless nights about the size of the discount, we would be forgetting about more important things in the business. So I don't think we should take credit for the reduction of discount as management, but maybe we had a tailwind in this case.
Well, I think your share price was up 45% over the period, so yes, a credit due to the market. Lelo has a closing question for you.
Just with regard to your investment in Seacom, the undersea water cable, I just want to ask, what do you see from a pricing standpoint for the traffic you carry in the cable? Do you see that
the projections are the prices are going to come down, and that was built into our forecast as the capacity comes on stream.
Right.
And hence, this is not an investment that you hold for 10 years with a view of selling it at the end. It's all about first mover advantage, and you've got to capture the revenue streams quickly first.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Please complete your train of thought, sir.
No, that's more or less the answer. You will see that our valuation of CCOM vis-a-vis the last valuation at our interim stage is more or less unchanged, and because they're on track in terms of our expectation.